Thank you, sir. What is your name, ma'am?
Leslie Livingston Jacob.
And are you a lawyer, correct?
Yes, sir, I am.
And where do you work?
I work for Golda Jacob and Associates.
Okay. So you work for Leon Jacob's mother?
I do.
Okay. How long have you been licensed for?
I've been licensed for over 13 years.
Okay. And you're married to the defendant's brother, correct?
I am.
And do you have any children?
We have 2 children.
How old are your children?
I have an 11-year-old beautiful stepdaughter and a 2-year-old.
Okay. And so how long have you and Adam been married for?
We've been married for 4 years.
Now, as the sister-in-law, you obviously are familiar with Leon Jacobs, correct?
I am.
And how far back do you go with him? When do you remember first meeting him?
I met him my freshman year of college.
Okay. So you've known him for a while?
Yes, 1997.
Okay. And did you know Megan Vericus?
I knew Megan very well.
And how did you know her?
Leon introduced me when they started dating, and she moved to Houston in 2014.
And after the time that she moved to Houston, the two of you become good friends?
Very good friends.
Okay. And you would think you would classify yourself as being a close or maybe her only close friend down here?
She had several other friends, but she became one of my best friends.
Okay. I'm going to ask you about some incidents that took place in January of last year. Okay. Do you recall the date that Megan left your brother-in-law, Leon Jacobs?
I do.
Okay. And can you tell us how you remember that date?
I remember that date because it was around 8:30 or 9 on a Thursday evening, I believe. And my husband walked in our house with Megan. The baby was already sleeping. She was she was 1 at the time, and my older daughter had just gone to bed.
And before your husband walked in with Megan, did you have any idea what had happened earlier in the evening? Did anybody call you or anything like that?
My husband called and said he'd be home late, that there was an incident at his mother's house, and that everything's okay, but that he was just going to be over at his mother's for a little bit longer and put the kids to sleep.
And did you talk to Megan about what had happened earlier in the evening?
When she came to my house?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And what was her demeanor like when you saw her that night?
She was shaken, very upset. She came in the house, and I didn't know what had happened, and she proceeded to tell me and Adam exactly what had happened.
Okay. Did you see any sort of injuries on her body?
I did.
What did you see?
I saw handprint. It looked like a thumb indentation and then some fingerprint on her face.
And for the record, when you were explaining that, you were motioning towards your face. So is it fair to say that when you saw the handprint on Megan, it was over the bottom part of her face?
Correct. And she had a little mark on her lip as well. She didn't know if it was from when she said he.
Objection as to.
Okay, sorry.
Your second.
Sorry.
But she did tell you what had happened earlier?
Yes.
Your Honor. Oh, I'll strike that.
Do you know at that point whether the defendant knew where Megan was that night?
He did not know where she was.
Did you ever reach out to the defendant and tell him where Megan was?
No. Actually, Megan parked her car. Okay.
Did Megan drive her own vehicle to your house?
Yes, and she parked it about a mile down the street. My husband actually.
That is not responsive to the question.
Sorry. Yes, sir.
So she did not park in front of your house?
No, she did not.
It was parked somewhere down the street?
Yes.
And how was it that she got from her car to your house?
My husband followed her to park her car down the street and drove his car to park in our driveway and brought her in the house.
Was there any, if you remember, was there any contact between yourself and the defendant any time that night?
Thursday night, no.
Okay. What about in the following days?
Friday evening, we had told Megan that she could stay with us as long as she wanted. Friday evening, I don't know what happened, but Leon found out that Megan had stayed at our house the night before. And he started texting that he wanted me to talk to her. And I told him that she needed her space and that he just needed to, we were having a girls' night, just the two of us, and just to let her be right now.
And you mentioned it a moment ago, but you said the defendant was looking to contact looking to get a hold of Megan or get back with Megan through you. Is that fair?
Yes,
Okay. He was kind of relying on you to mend the gap between the two of them.
yes, constantly.
Okay. And so when you say constantly, are you referring to multiple calls or text messages?
He sent me hundreds of text messages saying that if I didn't get them back together,
Non-responsive.
And what was the content of those messages?
that I had to help him get back with her, and that anything that didn't happen was basically my fault.
And did he ever show up at your house?
He did on Friday evening.
Okay. What happened when he showed up on Friday evening?
Megan and I were having a girls' night, and the baby was sleeping. My husband had my older daughter out of the house.
Responsive,
That's overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. My husband had my older daughter out of the house, actually was taking her to see her mother. And I just put the baby down, and Megan and I had ordered takeout. And there was a knock on the front door, and I thought it was takeout. And so I went and opened the door, and Leon rushed in the house looking for Megan.
Now, was there any other time either you saw the defendant at your house, or was there evidence that he'd been by your house?
There was, earlier that day, there was flowers left on the front doorstep with a card for Megan.
And you just assumed that was from the defendant?
He had texted me and said that he dropped off something for Megan.
Okay.
And-
So
yeah.
Okay. So back to that night, you answer the door. The defendant pushes the door open. What happens after that?
He came in the house and screaming, "I know Megan's here. Where is that bitch?" And I was like, "Leon, she's not here. Please don't wake the baby. Please just leave." And I just kept saying, "She's not here. She's not here."
But she truly was there, correct?
She was, and yes.
Did you know where she was at that time that you're confronting the defendant?
I didn't know at that time where she had hidden. I found out after I got him out of the house.
And where was he in the house looking for Megan, if you remember?
Well, he came in our front door, and he saw the flowers that he had brought in, I think, her purse or some bag in our kitchen bar area. Not bar area, our island area with some bar stools. And he went upstairs where our extra bedroom is, came back down, and I kept saying, "She's not here, she's not here."
And did he ultimately believe you?
He did after I called my husband on the phone, and I told him that
What did-
Leon wouldn't leave the house, and I wanted him to leave immediately. He was waking the baby up.
Okay. What were you going through at that time? What were you feeling about what was happening?
I was scared. I was really scared. I was scared for Megan. I was scared he was going to find her. I was really upset. He burst in my house and woke the baby up, and yeah.
Did you ever consider calling the police?
I did. My husband said if he wouldn't leave to call the police.
And did he ultimately leave?
He did.
Okay. And it was shortly thereafter in the following days that Megan decided to leave your house and go stay somewhere else.
Megan left that night. She packed up her stuff. I couldn't convince her to stay. She didn't feel safe, and she told me she would not tell me where she was going.
Objection, Judge. Hearsay.
Sustained.
Did you know where she was going when she left your house?
She said she was going to a hotel property that either she worked for or that she could stay somewhere.
Hearsay, Your Honor.
Oh, sorry.
Following that incident, did you have further communication with the defendant about Megan?
Yes.
And what was the nature of those communications?
At first, it was that I needed to help her speak with him, facilitate some meeting or something like that. And then after that, it was just anger. And
Do you know why he was angry at you regarding what was going on with Megan?
he believe that I told Megan about him and Valerie, and that's the reason why Megan didn't want to be with him. But I didn't even know about him and Valerie until after he was arrested for the stalking charges.
Did he display a lot of anger towards you once he believed that you are an obstacle between him and Megan getting back together?
Leading, Your Honor.
Sustained.
What sort of behavior did he display towards you once he believed that you were getting in between him and Megan?
He sent nasty text messages to my entire family, calling me names, saying that I wasn't family, that I wasn't blood, tried to get me fired, just said horrible things to my husband about me. And yeah, so he just horrible things.
Did your husband ultimately step in and say, and deal with the defendant and say, enough is enough, leave my family alone?
He did.
I'll pass it, witness judge.
From the defense, please.
If I haven't, yeah. Did you, we've met.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you give a statement to the police about what happened?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you attempt to contact the police about what happened?
About the evening he came in my house?
Right.
No, sir.
Okay. Was it obvious, I think you testified, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Leon thought that you were very protective of Bacon?
He knew we were very close friends. I don't know about protective because there was nothing to protect her about until this incident occurred that I knew of.
Okay. And he's familiar enough with your house, correct, whereby he could come in and could walk upstairs?
Yes, sir. He had been in our house. He was familiar with our house.
Okay. And he was looking for Megan, was he not?
Yes, sir.
Now, this issue about the flowers, had the flowers been on the, in front of the front door before he got there?
Yes, sir. When I got him from work, there were no flowers there. And then Megan came over, and then he texted that he had put something for Megan on the front porch.
All right. And did you open the door to find out what they were? Or did
Yes,
Megan-
I did. I believe I did. Yes, sir.
Okay. And what kind of flowers were they?
They were really pretty, bouquet of flowers. I don't recall what kind of flowers.
Was there a card attached?
Yes, sir.
And would you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what the card said?
I never read the card. I didn't open it.
Okay. Was it addressed to Megan?
I believe it said Megan.
All right. Well, you knew it wasn't for you.
Correct. I knew it wasn't for me. He had texted me and told me that they were for Megan.
And you've received flowers in the past, have you not?
Yes, sir.
And flowers are normally accompanied by a card from the person sending them.
Yes, sir.
And there's something normally affectionate in the card, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would you see any difference in this particular situation as far as the content of that card's concerned?
I don't know what the card said, but I'm sure it was some sort of apology or something like that for his actions.
And it was obvious to you that he was trying to get back with Megan?
Yes, sir, at that time, yes.
Okay. Now, you had worked on, you were working with, what law firm?
My mother-in-law's law firm, Golda, Jacob and Associates.
Okay. And during that period of time that you were working there, Golda was involved in Valerie's divorce.
Yes, sir.
And as a matter of fact, you all were representing Valerie.
That is correct.
And you worked on Valerie's divorce, did you not?
I did.
Okay. You mentioned, I think, that you saw Leon up at the office.
Yes, sir.
There was nothing unusual about that, was there?
At what time point? Because there started being some unusual activity at the office.
Right.
So,
Okay. But the very fact that he went to the office, nothing unusual about going to the office.
every
Not
once in a
talking
while.
about what happened, but nothing unusual about him going to his mother's office.
No, he'd show up there occasionally.
Okay. And again, he wanted you to facilitate a communication between he and Megan.
Yes, sir.
And that was for the purpose of trying to convince her to come back to him.
Yes, sir.
Now, I believe you testified that you did not know about Valerie and Leon until the night of the confrontation.
No, sir. I didn't know that they were living together and cohabitating until I saw him. I was the one that saw him getting arrested for the stalking. I knew that they had previously had sex in 2014 before Megan moved to Houston.
All right, well, and again, you worked on Valerie's divorce.
Yes.
So obviously you would know about Leon and Valerie prior to that night, correct?
Yeah, back in 2014, yes, sir.
Okay.
I didn't know they had an ongoing relationship and that she was back in the picture and when he was with Megan.
Objection, non-responsive, Judge. Yes, thank you.
Ma'am, you mentioned something about there being some unusual activity at the office regarding the defendant. What did you mean by that?
Well, he started coming up to the office a lot more frequently. I want to say in January of 2017, and it was just a lot of coming up in there, trying to get me to contact Megan, trying to get in touch with her and everything. And it wasn't odd for him to come and see his mom at work, once a week, once every couple weeks, but it was just a lot more frequently in January.
Okay. I'll pass it with Judge.
And the purpose of those visits, he was trying to contact Megan through your office because he knew that you all had a relationship with her, right?
Yes, sir.
And he wanted to see if you could facilitate a meeting between Megan and himself so that Megan could come back to him and they could go on down the road of life happily ever after, correct?
Yes, but
That's his desire, correct?
I don't know what his desire was. I know he wanted to contact her and speak with her to try and make things better.
Sure, to make things better. Pass the witness, thank you.
Nothing further, sir.
Thank you.